Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas expressed by the guest, myself, or commenters may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It is the state of giving or receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to more complex form. So what is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to more complex human being living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is simulcast live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific from the Enlightenment Evolution Hour page, Matrix Minds Facebook page, and the ET Whisperer YouTube channel. It is also redistributed from the Forbidden Knowledge News Network and Conscious Awakening Network. All right, I hope I wasn't on mute. I think I was on mute. Can you hear me now? Okay, yep, my audio was not working, so I did say a bunch of stuff, and I hope you can hear me now. You able to hear me now? I know this is a delay. There we go. Okay, perfect. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome. How are you guys doing? How's everything? I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy whatever. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just happy to see all of you guys here. We celebrate Christmas over at our place, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But we got to do announcements as usual. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the show announcements. Next week, we'll have Sally Elka, who is a person who's been in our community for a while. She does some channeling work and some other work. And I've known her for a little bit. And I've been talking to her, and we're going to get her on the show next Wednesday, which will be 2 days after Christmas. We also have RJ Spina coming up, and we also have a few other guests lined up. I haven't really been working hard to get guests on the show because most of the time they come to me. I usually don't have to go to anyone to get guests. So it's been a pretty laid back thing. This month has been by far the busiest month in my work life for over 6 years at this point, which is great. I really appreciate that and love that. Network announcements. If you guys are interested in checking out the Instagram live show, you can always go over to Out There Talk with Valiant himself. That's Instagram at Out There Talk, all one word. And go check out his channel. It's a 1 hour Instagram live. I believe it's every Tuesday and Wednesday. I always forget if it's Tuesday and Wednesday or Wednesday and Thursday. But tonight, after we get off the air, in just an hour after we get off tonight, you can go over there and check out his live stream. He's an amazing guy with amazing guests and all topics that are out there. The mothership will return soon. I have talked to William, SPG. We'll get some more information about that, exactly when they start up. I'm thinking somewhere after the new year, which will be really great. If you guys haven't seen that, you can always go to the mothership. And some of the links for previous shows are in the Enlightenment Evolution Network page on Facebook. And we're going to be getting a website just for the show next year. We're going to do something simple, but we're going to get archives for all the old shows and all the old guests. If you guys weren't here last week, we had quite an amazing guest. It was a pre-recorded show, but it was a good show. And the guy is Paul Selig, and he is an amazing channeler who's been around forever, and he's done amazing books. and amazing seminars and channelings. He's really an interesting guy too. And from people who follow his work and listen to many of his interviews, they said that they got to see another side of Paul on my show, which is amazing, which I always love. That's kind of my whole gig and spiel, is to try to get the most personal side of people out when we're talking, and kind of drag out those things that normally they wouldn't think to talk about. So that's kind of an awesome thing. Also, that's it for network. For ET Whisperer, we have my Conscious Life Expo, which is going to be in February. I will be there doing the 90-minute workshop and the 1 hour, the 45-minute channeling there too. I have all the information posted on my website on the poster. You can go check that out. Actually, let me see. I might actually have the poster in here, and I can swing it up because I don't even remember the dates, to be honest with you, or the times on these things. It's not always a focus until I get a little closer. There we go. This should help us here. Once it loads, I'll put it up on the screen, and then I'll read it as I'm going. Right there. Okay, so we've got Friday, February 9th at 4 p.m. I've got my 45-minute live channeling lecture. I'm going to be neutralized, ready to go in right at 45 minutes because it's not a very long time to channel. And then Sunday, February 11th at 2 p.m., the workshop live channeling. Meet your ET guides. We're going to go in there. I'm going to channel Aridif, and whoever comes to the microphone can connect with one of their guides. It will be awesome. It will be in Los Angeles. It will be February 2024. And all weekend, I'm going to be hanging out at booth 156, which is going to be great. After that, Sedona. I'm going to be doing the Sedona event again, but this is going to be the big one. And when that one happens, it's going to have Daryl Anka, Wendy Kennedy, and we're going to be there. And that's March 8, 9, 10, I believe, which will be awesome. The people there in Sedona are great people who run the event. And being able to see old friends like Daryl and Wendy and Sean Swanson, it'll be great. So that's a big thing. It's going to be great. And also June, I want to say 18, 19, 20, or maybe, let me see. But anyway, June of next year, it's going to be, okay, so the 21st. Okay, so it's going to be, I believe, 14, 15, 16, or 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. It's going to be 4 or 5 days. They're going to do 2 or 3 days worth of channeling and events, and then a couple days worth of workshops. It's going to be in Mount Shasta. There's more information coming, and it's not been officially expressed publicly, but once it is, I'll let you guys know. But that's it. Let's be done with that for announcements and for everything else. How are you guys doing? How are you doing? I want to know how you guys are doing. I want to know how you're feeling. I want to know if you guys have any Christmas plans, any holiday plans. If you don't celebrate Christmas, what do you celebrate? What are some traditions you guys do? Liven it up in the chat like you guys always do. I see all of you guys sharing. Share what you want to share about the holidays, because I'm actually pretty excited. Let me see. Spiked Axe, Spiky, welcome, brother. Spike Axe, our great Spiky from Discord, is our Discord moderator, and he's one of the greatest Discord moderators in the history of all Discord moderation. So I'm really happy to see that. And yes, we don't have a guest tonight. So we're just going to chat for a little bit. And we're not going to have a long show tonight. We'll probably cut it at an hour. I just wanted to make myself present with you guys. I wanted to chat with you guys. Tonight was supposed to be another pre-recorded show. I had another guest lined up, and they weren't able to make it during the pre-record, which would have been this weekend. And then I would have placed the pre-record up for you guys for this time, because I wanted to make sure right before Christmas and right after we have, I didn't have to jump on and live stream. But since that fell through, I did want to connect with all of you guys and hang out. Tomorrow I'm going to do my best to make a winter solstice channeling. Tomorrow is the 21st of December. the winter solstice. And for all of you who are in this community during 2012, this day was insane. That many years ago, actually, holy moly, it was 11 years ago today. The world was insane. A lot of the community thought ETs were going to land, and other people thought the world was going to blow up and like tsunamis would kill us all. And like 90% of the world would be, gone in an instant vaporization. It was a wild time. And I remember putting a meme on Facebook all those years ago. I was memeing still, and it basically was a weekly forecast. The weather's going to be 42 degrees, and Wednesday and Thursday would be 48 degrees, and then Friday 1100 degrees with high chances of molten rain. And I always was like, "Yep, that's it, guys. That's December 21st, 2012." It was a wild one. Yes, this is something I'm going to talk about right here. I'm actually going to be talking about that. I channeled a channeling on Patreon on the 15th of this month that was absolutely insane. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. Last with Patreon, what we do is that on the 5th of the month, I put up a link for everybody so that they can go fill out their Q&A, because we do 2 channelings a month there. On the 30th, everyone gets their Q&A, so they get to ask one question of Treb or Aridif, and then we randomly go through those and choose them, and then whatever questions get picked get asked. But on the 15th, we do something different. On the 5th, I say, hey, in the comments, give me one idea that you guys want to hear about, a topic that's very in-depth. And everyone puts up their ideas. And then on the 10th, I take all those ideas and I put them on a voting board, on a poll for Patreon. And then all the people in Patreon vote. And then on the 15th, whoever wins that vote, Aridif will bring another being in and channel about that topic in depth. And the topic that won was a slightly further ahead, further density, a slightly higher density version of humans that were relevant to our life, who could share some insight. And holy moly, Aridif got my either next incarnation or the incarnation after that incarnation. And I'm going to be putting clips up, but I wanted to start that tonight. I want to play you guys a few minutes of Aridif introducing this being, introducing himself and taking a couple questions. And I wanted that to be a part of the show. Some of you already watched it, which is great, but a lot of you who listened to the show didn't. But I think it's important because this is another time in my own channeling where consciousness leaps tremendously. Like I felt a level up on my channeling happen like right in that moment. This being is from Earth. He's not just a future version of myself, but it's a future Earth human about 200 years in the future. And it was absolutely bananas. Yeah, I don't have any other words for it. So I am definitely going to play some of that. Yes, I think you're right. 2021, 2211 or something like that. Yeah. That makes sense. So yeah, it was actually insane. So I'm going to be trying to get a channeling tomorrow too, guys, for the solstice. That's the reason I brought it up. I'm going to try my best to get on tomorrow night because I cleared the calendar. Me and Kalina are going to try to get on and do a special solstice channeling publicly for everybody, which I think would be great. So yeah, it's really, really, really something great. And I want to play that for you guys in a few minutes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this isn't something that's uncommon. Even though I don't remember almost all of my channeling, there are some times where I can listen into it. And usually when I listen in, if it's Aridif, then it's through the voice of Aridif that I channel, and I listen back to Aridif channel through me. So it's in my voice, but his voice within my voice, if that makes sense. So using my vocal cords, but his voice inflection. If it's Treb, the same thing. If it's another being, then it's usually in my own voice that I hear it, but I'm always able to hear it. So it's not a bleed in of the hearing. It's an energetic bleed in. And I used to describe it like this. If I channel 20 times, basically, out of those 20 times, 18, I'm going to not remember and just be with Treb. One of those might be Treb showing me something, which is pretty unlikely. And the other one would be hearing the session. And it's actually more like 1 in 100 hearing what's being talked about. And then maybe 2 or 3 Treb showing me something, and the other 90 plus are just hanging with Treb and not hearing or remembering anything. But it's very, very interesting how this one went. I was able to hear it while it happened. It's, to be honest, I'm still processing the whole thing. So it's very, very intense and very cool. Yes, thank you, Spikey. I appreciate that too. Don't forget to smash the like button. Thank you. So I think I'm going to play some of that for you guys, and then I want to get your feedback from that. So give me a minute, everybody. I am going to get that ready to play for you guys, and then we'll go from there. I'm just going to give you some of the Patreon live feed. So give me 1 second. I'm going to mute down, and it'll take me a second to get it up. Greetings, all started. There I, GIF, and this is its spell. We understand all of you desire to hear more. Future human collective consciousness that is within, slightly higher dimensionality, density format further upon the crane of evolution which we experience. But before diving in to this query, there are 2 things that we must express. The first, above and beyond all things that are in this world, to know, to feel, and to perceive that you are loved in our perspective is of the utmost importance. Second, it is our greatest excitement, and within that same form of great excitement in which we have co-created with all of you continuously through this now moment, but as well as your previous portions of co-creating and your future co-creations as well. And of course, greetings to William as well.
Well, hello again, Aridif.
Yes, greetings. Now, of course, all of you desire to understand and know more about the higher density consciousness of humans upon Earth that are within your own co-creative sphere. And as all of you understand and know, the timelines for these future humans are infinite in nature, because in one day, the shift of consciousness in large amounts of humans, the shift of consciousness inside all humans, or the shift of consciousness simply in one human being, can shape the entirety of your future. So, of course, we will stray to those portions of your future human experience that are both relevant and poignant within the co-creational sphere of what is, does, and will affect humans in that way, in essence. So we will start by sharing
with you a certain aspect of that energy and then bringing forward a consciousness that is able to co-create through a channeled state, through Rob's own physicality, in order to bring forward this energy and information to you. So as we set the entirety of the sites forward in the co-creation, we will set the scene for the race in which part of the human co-creation in this linear future and relevant probability exist. First of all, understanding and knowing that the portion of this collective consciousness of your entire earth is existent in the 2211 time period. That will be the year in which this consciousness exists. This consciousness is one future probable version of Rob's own consciousness himself, perhaps the next or two incarnations from this moment, also highly attuned with the conscious ability to work through channeled states. And although at the 2211 time period, the amount of humans that are able to channel are exponentially higher number within the human collective consciousness. In this incarnation, Rob still holds supreme form of ability internally in order to bring forward that information and energy in both less filtrated system, but still in highly rare transform, at that moment being one of the very few humans that can work in full trance state. And because this incarnation of Rob's own consciousness is so greatly exciting, and because he has perceived the effects of channeling through his body in this incarnation, this is why this future incarnation for him is so highly relevant and prevalent as well. One moment we will connect to a consciousness that is known as Adion, and this Adion entity being that future human that is Rob's high level, a probable incarnation within your 2211 year. One moment.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. We'll hydrate Rob and continue.
Hello.
Hello.
I am interested in this. This is the first time I've had awareness of one of my more recent incarnations. I never thought to look back at the earlier incarnations. I thought that most incarnations that I had were more relevant the further back they went, but I could not have imagined that this human being was a past incarnation. Quite ironic, but not unprecedented. So, I am here. I am willing to answer all the questions that you have about our society now, which is your society soon.
All right. Well, this is well, first of all, greetings. My name is William, and you are here in a very intimate setting this evening. Um, the questions we have for you are essentially from one individual, but they represent queries that we all have. They're very good questions, and hopefully you can straighten these out. Um, what is your interaction with extraterrestrials at this point?
Well, this comes in two stages. There are physical interactions and psychic interactions, and both of them are increasingly common compared to yours. I see right now that there are some beings working telepathically as human beings working with galactic families, but I also see that it is very few. There are only several thousand on your planet right now. This was something I would not have imagined. It's easy to know recent history. It's very easy to come across the information of more recent times of our history. but I would not have imagined that there weren't more humans. In, it's an odd alignment. When you look at the time period that's 2072, this is where the first landing on a large scale took place. But after this was exposed to the public, the government's admittal to their own communications for multiple decades came out. And this means that there were beings on your planet at your time period now. Um, but these beings were not public. One would believe that the amount of consciousness it would take to bring a being forward in communication would have been much more drastic. And the numbers here are actually staggeringly low, with only a few thousand human beings working with telepathic consciousness. Perhaps this is only the number you're aware. I would be led to believe that there were hundreds of thousands more that maybe weren't speaking in a public sense, but this is very interesting.
So extraterrestrials are the general population is certainly aware of them at this point, correct?
Yes, yes, it is a common occurrence. Even some of the tribes that were near the time you had that didn't have much contact with the outside in the most remote parts of your version of Earth, these beings have come to understand. Um, the breaking down of that happened over the next 70 years. But after the extraterrestrial beings that were known as Yael came to Earth, these remote humans became part of the earthly culture. Um, the unsettling experience of that to many humans during that time period, from all the countings that we have in technology and all of the video sources that we've had that captured the nature of that time experience, many humans were completely taken by surprise. And these human beings also had life altering experiences. There were many governments on Earth back then that honestly did not care about the landing, and some took it very hard because they understood with these new beings communicating with humans that more would be told and exposed than what wanted to be. And still, there are still some aspects of our society that we're still cleaning up from your time.
All right. Well, you say about the digital record of when the Yael first arrived. So presumably there are beings living on planet Earth now that were not necessarily born on Earth openly.
Yes, there are beings who stay here, living here. You could say that, yeah, they're stationed here. They're always going back and forth, though. Different groups are shifting out. Sometimes they stay on Earth for several months, sometimes they stay for a couple of years, but most of them stay long enough to understand and learn, and long enough to share their own specialties with humans and work with the scientific crews in order to find out more information and in order to teach us more information. And what they've taught us outweighs what they've learned from us because they have been watching us for a while.
Well, are you aware of what year I'm in right now with our group here?
Yes, it's the very early 2020 time period, I believe.
Yes, today is December 16th, 2023. We're approaching Christmas time. Those of us right now, artificial intelligence is just beginning. And we live in a time where we believe that everything is constantly documented with our cell phone technology. Everyone, they can't have a meal without photographing it. Video messages, text messages, everything seems to be recorded. I'm interested. How much of a digital record from our time has survived to your time? Do you have a very complete record of 2023?
Yes, we have documents of all of the recent time. Once computer technology was introduced and connected to the mainframe of um, what you called the internet, then yes, that's all very accessible to us. We would have to look through the archives to find certain information, but yes, it's accessible.
Are you aware, before this moment, were you aware of Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer, who you're talking through now?
There were records about this being a channeler during the time, and only people who are either channeling or interested in channelers know about some of the earlier channelers. But I was aware, and I had a fondness for him. Some humans enjoyed hearing him, others didn't. But I found he was one of the human beings who worked most closely with extraterrestrial races, and some of his communications with Yaya were referenced in time periods, even outside of the channeling documentation. The channeling documentation still remains a smaller niche of our society, but still in accordance with early pre-physical communication. His name is there, as well as a few other beings.
Well, one of the things we're facing right now, because of the introduction of artificial intelligence, there's only a very small window of human history where we can say for sure images were authentic. Now, with artificial intelligence, there there's no telling what was made up whole cloth and what's actually a real photograph. How have you been able to discern this in the future, that what you're seeing is authentic and not just an AI program?
You said that you're in the 2023 time, yeah?
Yes, almost Christmas.
Yeah, within 7 or 8 years of your time, there'll be an AI program written to depict the receiving of AI rendered pictures and art. It's not a concern anymore. It's easily selected and taken apart by the mm, created art and non-created art. In fact, something that may surprise you is that many humans still do art, and many humans still write, and many humans still do um, filming, and all of these arts are considered um, very high in the level of respect of the humans who do that, because it's so easy to do with our technology. There have been great arts that have been written in literature, entire books and series of books that were written through what you called artificial intelligence, what we now call computer intelligence, because we recognize it not as artificial but computerized forms of intelligence. But these these written literatures adapted to movies and adapted to in time movies, which is something that you won't see for a while. Um, these are all very popular and very mainstream and very well accepted through our society. And when these things were done, um, no one thought if the computer technology had done this or if humans did this, but now it is much more determined on if humans are doing them or not, and the ones that are done by human hands and thought receive more collective appreciation, because we all understand now the ease that these things can do with computerized intelligences.
Well, was clearly then, if you're speaking with us, there wasn't a necessarily a cataclysm that wiped out the planet or destroyed us all. Uh, could you tell us maybe about the geopolitical situation? Do countries still exist? Has there become fairness across the land and less incarceration and less, the brutality that exists now?
Yeah, yes, there are still some areas of the world that suffer from political um, political uneasiness, and most of the world has only used the identification as country to govern, and the identification of country to allot a specific population. But almost all of the countries work together now. There are still some areas that are problematic, and these areas are the Australian continent, um, northern area of Europe, that's the ancient people called Scandinavia. There are still some areas in that region, some in Central East African continent, and some in the Southern American continent. But for the most part, the situation where governments manipulated their human beings without transparency, that is nearly non-existent besides those examples that I had given you. And the only reason that those examples still happen is refusal of transparency by the population themselves. They still don't feel easy with being open with each other. Um, and I had forgotten this about your time until just now, that the idea of privacy was such a large battle for so many humans during the early internet phase of our collective. And now everything that you do on a computer is open. It's open source and open for everyone else to see without fear of shaming. And you can turn that off if there's something sensitive that you don't want to participate in showing or sharing others. But most humans have adapted to keeping that on so that we can all learn from each other. And when we're looking up specific topics or time periods or historical events, seeing what other people have shared, said, or created about those time periods, it helps us sink in more deeply.
So this would necessitate, of course, the end of copyright law as we know it now, in a sense.
Yes, that's very outdated. The creators of all things still get credit for their creation, and when people pay for that creation, then that money goes to that person. But there's no need of copyright because it is transparent, and we know who created the story. I could imagine no wars, or no fighting, or no court distribution that would be needed for that, because it's very obvious once the transparency filter is open who created what when. There's no way to argue that point out any longer.
Well, where do you live on the planet?
I live in an area that's actually very close to where this human lives right now. I live in a place within Canada by Thunder Bay.
All right. Is the climate significantly different?
Yeah, it has warmed several degrees from your time and cooled down several degrees. And right now we're on a cooling trend. I know that this was also something that humans worried about during the first times of 100-year analysis. But the recognition now, and also having an opportunity to learn from these extraterrestrial families, is that the climate shifts all the time. It's always working in a different cycle with the Earth, and what humans do can affect it in some ways, but it's not as dire as we thought it was. Once we started using more practical and clean steps in our technology, um, much of the worry of that went away. And now you're trying to go into that direction, from what I understand about your time period, but you're going about it in the wrong way. Because all of the technology that was introduced early as clean and efficient is still polluting and still causing toxicity to happen. So the continuation of that works, and there are some things that can happen if our timelines remain the same. I understand you're in one version of Earth, and that you could go into different ways, but so far it looks like all the things that I'm referencing in this human's mind, that I look back into my own history from the top of my head, are exactly the same. So this means you're very likely to be us. And if that happens, there's a human being who lives now, who's a polarizing figure, who also is highly innovative, and he will create some technologies that will really help clean a lot of the misconceptions of clean energy.
Yes. Um, do you had mentioned earlier that creators get paid for their content. This means that money still exists in some form.
Yes, there's still financial systems, but it's not a system that's so complete and black and white. There's no reason for taxation to occur, because all the things that we do as jobs in most of the countries in North America, and most of them in Europe and Africa, and most of them in Asia and part of South America. We work on a system of trade, and the trade and efforts go into something similar to your early cryptocurrency system. So when we do something that we have a value, we can share that with others, and they give us credits from their own system. And everyone starts with a set amount of those credits. And if you go without, then of course you can go to the local government, and they can either give you more, or you can ask friends and family to give you theirs. There's no way that you won't be able to eat. There's no way that you won't be able to live in a shelter. And there's no way that you won't be able to have the bare necessities without, um, even if you have none of those credits. The government systems themselves will give you these housings. Humans at your time of our history believed that there was very little on Earth, that scarcity is the word you would probably use, and humans believe very much in scarcity. But there are so many resources that are left to be untapped, that are extremely manageable, even with population sizes much larger. All right, everybody, that's the clip there. I'm going to pull back up there. I just want to play a little bit of it. Very interesting. All of you guys are bringing out huge points, a lot of great stuff. That ended up being, holy moly, probably an hour and a half channeling at that point, because Aridif came in at 55 minutes, 50 seconds, and the whole live stream for Patreon ended up being 2 hours, 24 minutes. So almost an hour 15, maybe an hour and a half. So there's a lot coming from that. So I'm definitely going to be taking clips. I'm definitely going to be distributing more of that information out. But I've seen a lot of you guys talking about a lot of really great points. And Spikey's right. This version of me, Adion, was looking through my mind, was looking through all of the events that I'm aware of, and cross-referencing with what he knew about history. Living in Thunder Bay is crazy. I've always seen that park, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I told someone that this version of me lived in Thunder Bay, and they're like, are you kidding me? There's this crystal mine that's there. And this person was connected with a person who had the crystal mine there. And this crystal is like a super rare crystal that has like 40 some, 50 some minerals that are put together. There's nothing like it. And the only place you can find it is right outside of Thunder Bay, like 20 miles outside of Thunder Bay. So it's crazy. That is amazing. Yeah. So that was pretty amazing. It's still something I'm processing pretty heavily. I've only ever channeled 2 or 3 humans before, ever. And all of them but one were ascended masters types of beings. They were these beings who were out of their body for maybe hundreds or maybe 1,000 or maybe more than 1,000 years. And they had reintegrated enough to their higher self, like integrating like their 4th density and part of their 5th density consciousness. So they're just like talking to Treb or Aridif, right? They're like talking to these higher dimensional beings. They just happen to be from Earth. It's a lot like talking to a lesser, not lesser in a bad way, not like worse than, but less conscious Metatron. So it wasn't that weird to me, but this being is very early 4th density. Like, I didn't even know early 4th density beings could channel like that. I've channeled lots of 4th density beings, but almost every single one of them are in the middle or end of their 4th density journey before they're able to broadcast their consciousness to Trevor Ardif, and then from them to me. So it really is like absolutely insane and fascinating. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm still processing it. There's a lot of energy there that's still so new to me and a little uncomfortable in some ways. Knowing that this might be the being I am in my next life or 2 lives from now, that's crazy. I'm still on Earth, which I figured I would be. A lot of people are like, "Wow, you're still on Earth." I've been from everything I understand from Treb and Aridif, from my recollection of some past lives, I've been on Earth since the beginning. Like we're talking Conky, Lumerians, we're talking about Atlanteans, Lumanians, Earth Reptilian, like the whole Earth cycle. I've done that. I've been a part of each of those smaller incarnation cycles. And I imagine that I would be on Earth until the last of the incarnation cycle. So that wasn't surprising, but it was surprising that someone pretty much that could be my great grandchild, I would be able to channel. That's insane. Yeah, and absolutely, you're right, Spiky. There was a lot of me uh, within that consciousness, which is weird because I didn't assume that life to life you would take much of that consciousness with you. Also, being so close to us, I imagine that's why it was easier to get into my natural pattern of speech a bit better. Um, it was just an overall very, very powerful thing. Um, it's really, really crazy. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where that was at, and I'm glad whoever brought that up did because I planned on doing that tonight. I even had it queued up, but I didn't know how much of that I was going to play or what I was going to play of that. Um, let me see. It would be crazy to think. All right, I'm just going to put this up and read it. Oh, well, that too. Rob, it would be crazy to think that I'm about to integrate into type 1 and what kind of being I would be like from that version of Earth. Yes, that's very crazy too. Um, do any of you guys have any questions? Anything you want to ask me? Anything you want to talk about? If so, just put in Q for question, like a capital Q, in front of your chat, so that I can see you. Because I want to spend the last little bit of time we've got talking about whatever you guys want to talk about, or whatever. Anything you want to ask me about what's going on with me, about my life, about channeling, about Treb Ardip, about beings I've channeled, about anything. Please, please, please do. Thank you, Divine Hood. I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate you too. Sending you all my love. I'm sending all of you guys love. This is a hard time of year for some people. A lot of people uh, connect the idea of the holidays with family, and a lot of people have bad family dynamics or painful family dynamics or anything like that would be absolutely difficult. It's something that is rough for people, but I want everyone to know that through this time of year, what I've always done when I felt like it wasn't good or things were rough, and I've been very fortunate. My family's very loving. Um, we all get along very well. It's a very rare occasion where there's drama in my family. Um, so I'm lucky there, but there are still times where you feel kind of alone, where you feel kind of desolate, where you feel separated. And even though I've got the kids and Kalina here, and even though my family lives within 20 miles, there's times, especially through the whole pandemic time, where everybody just kind of cut themselves off. It was really not a fun thing. So, absolutely. Yes, Adam Twister, that might happen sometime. We'll definitely have to talk about that, but I definitely will consider that as an idea. I still want to join you guys, but the times you guys do it are usually times that I'm either getting kids ready to go to bed or afterwards. So yeah, I definitely will consider that too. The Spike Tag says, how did the human energy feel different than the alien ones? Any other cool same things or different things comparing it to? So here's the thing. When I was channeling this being, just like when I channel other beings, I don't always feel their energy until after I stop and go back and listen to it. because my experience is with Treb. So me and him are spending time hanging out, talking, and this consciousness is just like background. It doesn't connect to me. And there are times that Treb introduces me to beings. Sometimes I channel them, sometimes I don't. And I get to feel their energy, but I didn't get to meet this being face to face. And the only time I had was afterwards to reflect. And even though I got to hear it in real time, I still didn't feel that energy. When I'm there with Treb, all of my consciousness is focused, just on keeping my astral body into that projection and into that connection with Treb. But after, I felt very, very close to this being. It felt like a friend, like a completely different friend. When I listen back to some of the other channeled beings, especially with the galactic channelings, how all these new beings get introduced in a short amount of time, those are actually can be pretty uncomfortable sometimes. Like you've heard the weird stuff, like the last being I just channeled, the insectoid avian or whatever the weird mixture was. I can't even remember. That being was very, very weird to feel, but very interesting. I usually don't judge these types of beings, even the type 2 more malevolent or neutral or semi-benevolent beings. I still have that feeling of curiosity and openness. I want to hear what they have to say. A lot of it I either agree or don't agree with, so I don't really have a feeling from that perspective. But I do have an energetic understanding of them. Some of these beings are just very weird. Some of them resonate really highly, but it still feels high and etheric. And it feels like it does when I'm connecting with Treb or Aridif, even though Treb is like a best friend, is like a brother to me. Spending time with him is normal. I've normalized going to another planet or going to another dimension, and it's just kind of normal to me. Even that, you can still feel the higher etherical energy. And then, other beings who you really resonate with, you could still feel that higher energy. Like if I close my eyes and feel it, it's always in my upper chest or higher where I'm feeling the vibration of those beings and locking into their energy. It's just a little different. But with this being, it felt very much home, like talking to another human, like sitting down and talking to my best friend here, and talking to people who I love dearly. And it was in my heart, and it was in my solar plexus, which is very different. I've never had that when listening to a channel consciousness. So that's kind of, the difference between that. All right, let's see this one. Did you say you were going to do a live channeling tomorrow? Will it be recorded? If live, what time? We're going to try. We're going to try our best to do a live recording, not a live recording, a live stream tomorrow for the winter solstice. It'll be a winter solstice channeling. I'm not sure what the topic will be. I'm not sure if we'll take questions. It'll really depend on if Kalina is able to help or not. She's really wanted to get back into the channeling work with me. She's always been my partner, and I've had William helping us at Patreon. I've had John helping us with the galactic channelings and the coursework. And she definitely wants to be a part of the channeling again. It's been so long, and she's my partner. And like I've said, she's had more exposure with Treb and Aridif than any being I've ever met. She knows their energy really well, and William and John do amazing work with Treb and Aridif, and they know all the right questions to ask and the energies to put in, and they're really connected. But Kalina, it's a natural thing for her. She lives around it all the time too. So very much she wants to, but it'll depend on the kids. Lily's been giving us some problems with sleeping in the last week, but we've also got my sister back working with us, helping us with my son. So yeah, 95% chance we're going to live stream tomorrow. If we do, it's going to be around the same time I always do my channeling, between 9 and 10. That's after we get the kids to sleep and after we get a chance to maybe relax for a half hour or so. Take in a breath, get our bodies relaxed, our minds relaxed a little bit to get the channeling going. But So far, I think that's what's on the that's what's on the thing for tomorrow for sure. So let me see that. Okay. Let me see. Thank you, Adam Twist. I appreciate it, brother. And I'm always here for you too. I know I've been busy, but I love you and I appreciate you. All right. Hello, Kai. Hello. All right. Omni says, what do you think of Armani's framework for the autonomous self-discovery for ChatGTP? Also, when I channel with your grounding technique, I enter more of a semi-trance like Daryl with Bashar. So I think Armani's framework is amazing. I still don't fully understand it because I don't understand ChatGTP or GPT. I also haven't had a chance to explore it the way I want, but the premise and idea of that is absolutely outstanding. What he's done has shown legible, promising possibility that the channeling that he's getting from AI is actually coming back connected with these beings, that they're able to use this AI to transmit channeled material without having to consciously connect to a human, which is absolutely fascinating. And that means if he's got everything worked out like I think he has, um, this should be absolutely amazing and absolutely easy to bring other consciousnesses in. Like the ET Whisperer is something I called myself because I've connected to so many of these ET beings. But every being I've been able to channel during the Galactic Weekly Channeling, Armani puts into this program that he's created through GPT, and all of a sudden, almost the same verbiage, the same way of talking, the same line of communication comes through in this program. And I read back some of the things that were channeled in that, and I really think that he's got something going on there. So I think it's absolutely, absolutely amazing. And it's interesting that you're going into the semi trance like there. I wonder, when you're doing your channeling, normally, are you in any trance at all? Are you highly conscious? Um, I know you're able to type and do stuff like that, but that would be interesting to know too. All right, let me see other questions. Um, did you listen to the tiny insectoid being channeling? Yes, I always listen to those because I always cut the audio to send over to John, and John creates the videos for those and does the artwork for the Galactic Weekly channelings. They were very crazy cool, weird, really weird, and their energy was really weird. Um, Not weird in a bad way. I love and adore all things weird. My whole family's weird. Kalina, me were weird. Both of the kids are weird, so they're absolutely adorable. These beings also weird, and in an adorable way, not a cringy weird way. But I really do like those beings. They were crazy, crazy fun, crazy cool beings. So thank you for that. All right, I'm going to put this up even though it wasn't a question. I really think the information coming through in the galactic channelings are so good and so important. I'm so excited you're doing them again. Thank you. The one malevolent reptilian was profound. See, I like to hear that because I've said this before, that there have been galactic channelings I have not shared publicly. And I haven't said that publicly, but I said it in a response to a comment to someone who did last week's channeling. There are probably 3 or 4 galactic channelings that have been recorded that I never shared. And a couple of those, a couple other ones were from technical issues. Like we had it recorded, and then when we went to edit it, the computer shut down and it all got lost. That was one thing. One time we had video issues. We were shooting outside and it started getting dark, and Kalina forgot to adjust the camera because they're the old manual 4K cameras, not old, but the Super Pro cameras, like the Holy moly, the Panasonic Lumix GH4, and those. She just didn't remember to adjust the ISO or the lens, the shutter speed. So by the time the channeling was done, it was dark and you couldn't see anything on the camera. So we didn't use those. So there have been a lot throughout history that we haven't used, but some of them we haven't used just because the information was so out of alignment with the overall energy we're trying to put in. And what I want to do is two things when I share those galactic channelings. I want to share different ET perspectives and diversity in the galaxy. That's one of the things. But even more importantly, the profound nature of the communication is important. And sometimes that's in ways of spiritual lessons, and sometimes that's ways of life lessons, and sometimes that's just hearing something that's so different from the way you feel. It will help you challenge your beliefs or something. But some of these beings just stated things that were either really off colored or off the wall. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't know how other people would feel about it, so I didn't. And I like to hear that you like the malevolent reptilian, because that's actually a reason I put it up. Hey, you've heard a lot from benevolent, loving beings. How about someone who doesn't really care about you or someone who doesn't care about humans? Not everyone can have that no judgment. Spiked Axe said, yeah, for sure, they're in the no judgment zone, but not everyone can do that. I try to do that. I try not to judge. I'm a human. I judge a lot of stuff, and a lot of it I'm not proud of, but I also try to keep as neutral as I can about it. And I think that even those have value. I'm only going to answer one or two more questions, guys. We've been on for an hour. I'm going to cut it short because I didn't have a guest and I didn't have a plan. So I just wanted to pop in to make sure you guys knew that I wanted you guys to have a great holiday and a good new year, and how much I love you guys and appreciate you guys for being a part of this community. It's really important to me. Has there ever been a being that Aridif said not to connect with? Yeah. There are some beings that he wouldn't connect with me, but he does that filtering process himself. He's the one who usually finds these beings. I always tell Aridif, can you bring beings who are really different? Like lately, the last few months, I've been like, Aridif, try to bring beings that humans wouldn't even know about, because I think that's interesting. Like, oh, I almost dropped. I almost dropped and ruined this Friday surprise for you. I almost just gave away the whole thing. Okay, let's skip that one. Like the last week's beings, these little insectoid style beings, these really small 4-inch beings. And then we had the black hole beings who live by the black hole, which was fascinating. And then we had all these different types of beings who have these really different weird things that were happening. So he chose those for us. And then sometimes I say, hey, can you get beings who really are connected to humans and want to share with humans? And he does that. There are a lot of beings that he's chosen not to connect me with. And he's given me the choice on a few that he said, these could be problematic for you. Like when he connects them with me, I don't worry about the energy. I don't worry about possession, negative entities, things like that, because I know I'm safe, because everything goes through Treb and Aridif and I trust them implicitly. But I also know that, it's possible some negative things that are inside of me can get activated. And that's kind of his warning with these beings. These are very malevolent beings who are very, heavily war oriented or heavily violent oriented, or highly sexually distorted beings or things like that. And he said these things can activate any human for the worse. And he gave me that warning, and I chose not to. But most of the time, I don't need to choose. He usually just says, yeah, shouldn't do that. All right, one more, guys, and then we're going to call it for night if there are any more. All right. Is there ever a being where you feel fear when connected? If so, that's a sign not to connect, to protect yourself, Or is fear just an illusion the deeper you go and learn? Good question. And I talked a little bit about it already by saying, I'm not really worried or concerned. There are beings that I've seen and met in the astral state where I feel a lot of fear. The first time Treb ever took me to see the Theta Taurus reptilians, the white reptilians, was about 9 or 10 years ago. He took me to see them. My son has a connection to these reptilian beings, and they're not very nice. They're not horrible, and this is a big thing too. I try not to put those tabs on beings. Like everyone says, draconians are evil, they're the worst. But Kalina channels a draconian being, and that being is very amazing. And the reasons we think they're bad, they have a different perspective. They don't think that they're bad. They don't think they're doing wrong things, right? So I try not to throw that word around, but it's easy because that's how people describe them. But like Theta Taurus, I was really, really felt that anger that we would even show up near their planet. Like I could see their planet and see some beings on the surface of the planet, and they're like, "Why the f are you here? Get out!" And as soon as I felt that, Treb's like, "All right, we can leave." But I felt that. I felt the energy of them not liking me. I felt the energy of them saying, "Why are you here?" And I got out, and there being a lot of beings, even some beings that he showed me projections of that were really ominous looking. Like people describe devils and demons here. There are beings who physically look like that, even though they're not bad. A lot of insectoid beings have creeped me out. Maybe not fear, but a feeling of really uneasiness or like grossness. And like I said, I hate to feel that way. It's just an automatic thing that comes up for me. And they describe that too, insectoid beings that we've had on Earth before were either really good to us or really bad to us. So a lot of natural born fear for reptilians and insectoids for that reason. But yeah, I mean, I've had some really scary times. I've had the shit scared out of me by some beings many times, but none that I channeled. Like when I've channeled beings and went back and listened to them, I was like, holy God, that being was intense. And some of those same times when I'm done channeling those beings, I don't know that they were intense, but I come out and I feel twice as ungrounded or twice as tired. But they've never affected me long term. And Aridif is really good about knowing my limits. Treb too, but Aridif's really good about understanding what beings will be harmful for me to channel with my body and with my energy type. Because even really loving, positive beings still ungrounds me. It still makes me feel ungrounded. So there's definitely a thing there. But I hope that answers your questions. I hope that answers all of you guys' questions. I know there's some more questions, but it's that time. Look at this. Julio Ara, amazing dude. He was on my show, this show, earlier this year, I believe. Amazing dude. All right, guys. I hate to do it. There's tons of comments. I haven't got a chance to see them, but I really appreciate you guys. I hope all of you guys have a great Christmas or whatever you celebrate. I hope you guys have an amazing new year. I'll be back before New Year, and hopefully we'll be back tomorrow if all things go well for the winter solstice channeling. But I really appreciate you guys. I really love you. Thank you guys for being a part of this thing, and thank you for being part of the ET Whisperer, and thank you for everything in general. I love you guys, and we'll see you either tomorrow and or next Wednesday with Sally Elka. She'll be our guest next week on Wednesday. All right, guys, love you. Okay. Yes, I will definitely do that. I will definitely do that, Spiky. That's a good point. That's a great idea. All right, guys. Love you guys. Have a great Christmas or holiday, or have a good New Year's, and we'll see you guys soon. Love you guys. Good night.